Oh, I keep flipping this back. There we go. This table is a little crazy, but whatever. Okay. So we're on page Lamed base. This is our Rebbe's first maamar. And the Rebbe has gone through all of the Rebbeim once, explaining the idea of Iker Shechina. Now the Rebbe is going through all of the Rebbeim again to explain the inyan of the centrality of this world in terms of the Eibishter's desire for Dir B'Tachtonim, meaning why dafka this world? Why not Elam Hatzilus? Elam Hatzilus is a place of incredibly powerful godly revelation. So doesn't God want to be revealed? So reveal yourself. If Elam Hatzilus is the lowest world, right? There isn't a world of Bria Yetzir Asiyah. So then that would be called Dir B'Tachtonim, right? Because that would be Tachtonim. That would be the lowest world. So then that would be called Dir B'Tachtonim.
Amen.
So yesterday we saw the Alter Rebbe. Oh. Feeling better?
Oh, great.
So yesterday we saw the Alter Rebbe. And the Alter Rebbe explained something quite astounding. He explained three things that were quite astounding. The first thing the Alter Rebbe said is that if the purpose of creation were the upper worlds, so the upper worlds, the Rebbe said, are all a descent from a higher level. Okay, well, one might ask, well, this world is an even greater descent from a higher level. Okay, but we're going to answer that question, but we're not going to ask it yet, right? What does that mean that the upper worlds are a descent from a higher level? Any state of revelations, we learned yesterday, which is something that a person has to appreciate and understand, and their life will be a little better if they do. Any state of revelation is by definition, what does revelation mean? Revelation means that if I'm experiencing a revelation of a Kadosh Baruch Hu, then I appreciate the fact that the experience I'm having and the reality that I'm perceiving is coming from a higher level. Right? That's what it means. Meaning, hiddenness means I don't see the source of the thing in a higher level. It just seems to be there. Doesn't tell me where it's coming from. Revelation is I see the godliness in it, which means I see that it's coming from a higher source, which means what I'm perceiving, if I'm looking at a malach, in Elam Habriya, so what does that malach say to me? That malach says to me, I come from a higher source in godly reality. And he reveals that to me. I can see the godliness vitalizing this being, whatever that looks like. Must be quite interesting. So I see the godliness vitalizing this being. It's not hidden in any way, shape, or form. It's completely revealed. And therefore, I realize that the state of reality that I'm perceiving is obviously lower than another state, which is its source. Revelation means I'm seeing its source. That means it has a source. That means it's a descent from a higher place. That's the nature of revelation. Oh, so if the whole purpose of creation, as we learned yesterday, if the whole purpose of creation is the upper worlds, so the upper worlds are all worlds of revelation, and that means by definition they are all about revealing the fact that I am a descent from a higher level than me. So it can't be that the Rebbe created the world for the purpose of a descent. He didn't create the worlds in order to go down to a lower level. He created the worlds in order to allow a revelation of godliness that's equal to, meaning, put it in the way we put it yesterday, up there in the essence of a Kadosh Baruch Hu, when he says, I want to Dir B'Tachtonim, I want to be revealed in that place. I don't want a lower level of reality revealed. I want me to be revealed. Oh, so that can't happen in Elam Hatzilus, because Elam Hatzilus is all about revelation. Revelation is all about descent. It's really quite an astounding idea, because from our point of view, we relate to revelation as an ascent. Elevating myself. Okay, so it might be that's true. Relative to me, I'm ascending to a higher level, so I appreciate the godliness around me. Okay, but the fact that I appreciate the godliness around me means that I now appreciate the fact that what I'm looking at comes from a higher place. And therefore, it is a descent from a higher place. I'm not looking at level 1. I'm looking at least level 2 or the other way around. I'm not looking at level 10, I'm looking at level 9, because level 9 comes from level 10. It's a higher place. Okay, that's the first thing we learned yesterday by the Alter Rebbe, from the Alter Rebbe. Another thing we learned from the Alter Rebbe yesterday was that what is it that we can't define the essence of a Kadosh Baruch Hu when the Zohar tells us Leis Machshava Tfisa Beichlal, that no thought can comprehend godliness. What is the Zohar talking about? What level of godliness can't be comprehended in any way, shape, or form? The essence of God. The level of godly light that is clothed in the world and powers the world, brings the world into existence and vitalizes the world, that level of light, that level of godliness you and I can understand. How do we understand it? Very simple. Chazal say this. Just like the neshama powers the body, so God powers the world. Are you aware of some sort of life force that's inside of you giving you energy? Yeah. I don't know what it looks like. I can't open myself up and find it, but it's there. It's called life. Okay. So, just as I can understand that in you and I, there's this thing called life, so too in the world, there's this thing called existence. Right? And what's that? That's the godly energy that's giving the world its continued existence, vitalizing the world. It's not exactly the same. Why is it not the same? Well, okay, when I'm experiencing that life force in me, I'm experiencing what you and I will call my nefesh, my neshama. Okay, good. But my neshama is not the source of my being. My neshama didn't create me. It's the source of my life, but it's not the source of my existence. Right? The reason I'm alive is because I have a neshama in me. That's not why my goof exists. That's not why my body exists. My body exists because God created my body. Into that body, he put something called the neshama, and that's the source of the life of that body. And when that neshama leaves the body, not ours won't. We're going to see Mashiach and we'll live forever. But your average person throughout all of history, at some point, what happened? Their neshama left their body. And what's there? They cease to exist? That's not true. What do you mean they cease to exist? There's a body. We have to bury a body. It's still there. Weighs the same. There's still eyes, nose, ears. The eyes don't see. Why? Well, because the vitality of sight, that power of sight is a power of the soul that's clothed in the body and allows eyes to see. And when the soul leaves the body, so eyes don't see, but it's not that there's not eyes there. So the soul doesn't give existence to the body, but it gives vitality to the body. Okay. When we talk about godly light, we say even more. Godly light doesn't just give vitality to the world, it gives existence to the world. Were that light to disappear, it's not that the world would die, the world would cease to exist. Okay, but still we understand that's not a difficult idea for us to understand. Because we understand how we're alive. So too the world's alive. How's the world alive? There's a power in the world giving the world life, just like there's a power in you giving you life. Right? And it's hard, it's like dalet base. That's the simplest thing in the world to understand. To realize that thing is called God, okay, that might be something harder. That might be something harder. But to realize that there is such a reality, I mean, that's obvious. Okay. So relative to what you and I would call immanent godly light, the level of godly light that exists in the world and powers the world, called Or Mimale, which we learned about in the first chapter of Bosi Legani, that's very simple. I can understand that. Thank you. I just don't want them to get seasick. I don't mind. I can handle it. Infinite godly light? Hard for me to understand. Okay, I can't understand what infinite is, but I can understand what infinite isn't. It's not finite. Called infinite, right? Not finite. That's what it's called. Okay, so if you want to discuss infinite, levels of infinite godly light, so there's what to talk about. We can talk about it. Do I understand exactly what it is? No. But I understand how it's not, it doesn't express that state of limitation that I experience. Okay, I can relate to that. That's called hasagash lilit. That's called negative comprehension. I understand what something is by virtue of the fact of understanding what it isn't. I don't really know what it is. I just know what it isn't. Okay, but that means something. So about that level of godliness, or sovev, infinite godly light, which we learned about in the first chapter of Bosi Legani. This is not something new. It shouldn't be. We learned about it. Right? So that's also something that I can understand. What can't I understand in any way, shape, or form? Atzmus, the essence of a Kadosh Baruch Hu. Can't understand in any way, shape, or form. And we're not going to go through the questions we asked yesterday. We've done many times. Okay. But there is something we can say about Etzem. There's one thing. You say something which we don't understand how it works, but we can say something. It exists by virtue of itself. What's that in Lashon HaKodesh, the words of the Rebbe? In the fourth line of the paragraph, last word on the line, Shemitziuse hu mi'atzmuse. His existence comes from himself. He exists by virtue of himself. In other words, he has no source in anything else. There's no source to the Eibishter. The Eibishter just is. He's absolute being. We call it Yesh Amiti, true being. What's true being? Well, if you think about it logically, true being, something that whose being is the result of receiving that being from another being. Okay? So sunlight, which receives its being from the sun. So it doesn't really exist. What really exists? The sun exists, not sunlight. Sunlight is just the expression of something else that really exists. Sunlight doesn't matter. If I depend on something else for my existence, though, it's not me that exists, it's that thing that's giving me my existence that really exists, right? That's what's real. I'm just an expression of that. Okay? All levels of godly light are expressions of God's existence. But they don't have absolute existence. That's why, interesting enough, relative to a Kadosh Baruch Hu, what do they refer to? Ayin. Non-existent. Really non-existent. These are like unbelievably powerful levels of infinite reality. Yeah, okay, Beseder, but they rely on something else for their existence. And so what really exists is that thing that's their source. What's that? That's the essence of a Kadosh Baruch Hu. And that's called Yesh. Being. Yesh Amiti. True being. There's another level of being, which you and I are. That's called Yesh Nivra. Created being. Okay, but true being is the Eibishter. What does true being mean by definition? That level of reality exists by virtue of itself. It doesn't depend on anything else for its existence. Because again, if it does, so then the thing that really exists is what I'm depending on, not me. Right? Okay. Just makes sense. So there is a being, and our connection to this being is beyond intellect because we can't possibly understand such a thing, but we believe in such a thing because we have a power in our soul called Emunah, which is connected to that being. And that's the essence of your soul, which is connected to the essence of a Kadosh Baruch Hu, and that's where your Emunah comes from. Okay. So that being exists by virtue of himself. Where did he come from? He didn't. Is there a time before him? No, don't be ridiculous. Well, when did he show up? He just is. Well, why? No reason. Just is. Completely beyond our ability to understand. And that's God. When you say God, like really? That's God. Hashem? So when you say, in English, use the word God. That's what you're talking about. If you're using the Hebrew word Hashem, you're usually using the word that we use instead of Yud Ke Vav Ke, which is a certain level of godliness that's responsible for Or Mamale, God, the godly light that expresses itself in the four worlds. That's Havaya de Latata. That's lower level Yud Ke Vav Ke. Then there's a higher level Yud Ke Vav Ke, which we learned about in Hanukkah. Okay. But Etzem, the essence of a Kadosh Baruch Hu, what can we say about him? He exists by virtue of himself. That we can say. And that's what the Alter Rebbe did say. Okay. So with that in mind, we can now start learning what the Mittler Rebbe says, which is smack dab in the middle of the page. Right? In the middle of the paragraph. It's also in the middle of the page. Right? Because we're trying to understand why it is the Eibishter had this up there in the essence of a Kadosh Baruch Hu, so to speak. You have to say so to speak every time you talk about Etzem. But up there in the Etzem of a Kadosh Baruch Hu, the Eibishter had a desire. What was that desire? He had a taiva. That's the word Chazal use. And what was that taiva? He wanted the dir b'tachtoni. He wanted it to be a dwelling place in the lower realms. For what? For him. What's him? Atzmus. The essence of a Kadosh Baruch Hu. That the highest level of reality wants to be revealed in the lower realms.
Is Etzem and Atzmus the same?
Same. Okay, that's what he wants. Dafka in the lower realms. Dafka by virtue of our Aveda. We learned this in the first chapter of Bosi Legani. Right? Okay. Dafka in the lower realms. So let's see what the Mittler Rebbe says about that. Again, the Rebbe just quoted the Alter Rebbe, now the Mittler Rebbe. I'll point it out again. We pointed it out yesterday. If you look in Ois Hey, which is at the bottom of page Lamed Base, the Rebbe quotes the Tzemach Tzedek, because the Rebbe is going to go through all 5 Rebbeim again. Alter Rebbe, Mittler Rebbe, Tzemach Tzedek, Rebbe Marash, Rebbe Shah. He did it already relative to Iker Shechin. Now he's explaining a maamar of the Frierdiker Rebbe, so that the Frierdiker Rebbe is taken care of. So the Rebbe is going to go through all 5 Rebbeim again. And what's the third time he does it? What does he do? We talked about it yesterday. Tells a story about their Ahavas Yisrael. Tells a story about the Ahavas Yisrael of all of the Rebbeim. Okay. Ukemeshikos of Admar Emtsoi, the Mittler Rebbe, of Dov Bear, the Alter Rebbe's son, named after the Alter Rebbe's Rebbe, the Maggid of Mezrich. The Maggid told the Alter Rebbe to name his son after him. The Alter Rebbe had girls first. When the Alter Rebbe's wife was pregnant, so the Maggid said, it's going to be a boy, name him after me. So he did. Ukamesha Kosav Admar, I am sorry, the Mittler Rebbe. But Parsha Zu, in this Parsha, Parsha's B'Sholach, because when the Rebbe is saying this maamar, Yud Aleph Shvat, Tafshin Yud Aleph, the 11th day of Tafshin Yud Aleph, the 11th year, it's in the 11th month, the 11th day of the 11th month in the 11th year, Tafshin Yud Aleph. So when the Rebbe is saying this maamar, is Parsha's B'Sholach. Be'inyan ha'hefresh, how was the Mittler Rebbe said? The difference is between Olam Asel Yonim Leilam Hazeh, the upper worlds and this world. Because, and again, we learned in Bosi Legani, Ois Aleph, the Frierdiker Rebbe's Bosi Legani, which is the maamar that we're learning. In that maamar, the Rebbe explained to us very, very clearly 4 worlds, Atzilus, Bri, Yitzir, Asiya. We should all be able to explain what the difference is between those 4 worlds. Right now, in that maamar, interestingly enough, the emphasis was on the difference between Atzilus on one hand and the 3 lower worlds on the other. That was the main difference. And what is the difference? Atzilus is a godly world, and the 3 worlds are created worlds. Atzilus isn't a world of creation; it's a world of creator. And the 3 worlds are worlds of creation, metaphysical creation, a lower level of metaphysical creation, and then ultimately physical creation. Those are the 3 worlds. Bri, Yitzir, Asiya. We had our Masholim for them. Fine. Okay.
Coke, Sprite, and coffee cup.
Right. Bidiyuk. Okay. So now the Rebbe is explaining the difference between those 3 worlds and our world, because those 3 worlds are not physical. Right? Even though now one of them is godly, the other 2 are created. Okay, Beseder, but they all share something in common. They're not physical. Right? They're metaphysical reality, not physical reality. There's something unique about this world. Physical reality comes into being. What's unique about physical reality? So the Rebbe says something quite astounding. And it's going to be something that we just learned about relative to the essence of God. From the Alter Rebbe yesterday, and what we just reviewed at the beginning of class today. The Be'elam Hazeh, in this world, Nirgash, it's felt, it's not true, but it's felt, that his existence is by virtue of himself. What's our experience? Our experience is, when we wake up in the morning, are we aware of the godly energy surging into us, giving us life? No. What are we aware of? Ourselves. It's me again. Right? Boker Tov. Alarm rings. You come to some, it might take a while until you sort of orient, and then you my alarm's ringing. Okay. All of a sudden you're aware of the fact that you are once again a conscious being. Where's that consciousness coming from? It is. Here I am. Like, the first thing I say is I thank HaKadosh Baruch Hu for giving me life. Okay, but I have to say that because that's not my experience. If that were my experience, I wouldn't have to say that so emphatically, right? Because, that's just what I would experience. So why do I have to make such a big deal about the fact that I'm thanking HaKadosh Baruch Hu for giving me my life again? But I don't experience that. So I have to make sure that I realize that that's really what's going on. Because what I experience is, and it's so interesting, the words the Rebbe uses, Mitziyusum Etzmusay. I experience that I exist by virtue of myself. I am a self-contained little piece of existence. Okay, I might need a cup of coffee to feel it a little more clearly. That's what I experience. Is that experience true? Absolutely false. Couldn't be further from the truth. Right? Why do you exist? You exist because God is giving you existence. Just like God is giving the table existence, and He's giving the angel existence, and Elam Atzilus exists. It's all just Him. Okay, but where's the only place in all of reality where there's actually something, specifically us? What tigers and lions experience? Who knows, right? But you and I have this very, very fascinating experience. I am. Matter of fact, you can even get famous if you say, I think, therefore I am. You can become famous by saying things like that, which is absolute nonsense. Completely untrue. Not completely, because it is true that the fact that you experience your own existence is because you're conscious of it. Okay, but say it good, but that isn't what he meant. Why am I? Because God gives me being. That's why I am. Not because I think. I don't exist because I think I do. I exist because God thinks I do. Oh, because God's machshava turns into God's dibur, and that from that dibur, stuff happens. Okay.
When we're asleep, does our neshama float up to Yitzhak?
Higher. Goes up to Elam Atzilus. Reconnects with its source, is rejuvenated up there. It's like plugging your Tesla in at night. It's literally what happens.
1/60th? Is that?
That's what remains down here.
Right.
Right? So what they say, it's 1/60th of death, right? Meaning, yes, your neshama parts. Obviously, there's enough neshama down here to maintain existence, right? But it's definitely a limited existence. That's why many, many, many old people pass away in their sleep. Right?
Because that's not enough energy.
Yeah, there's not enough energy left, and so there wasn't enough in the beginning. At 5 p.m, and that day there was very little. Okay, so they go to sleep and it just sort of dissipates. Right? It's a nice way to go. Right? Okay, we're going to skip the brackets. Okay, that's just this Rebbe discusses something. It's very, very interesting, but it's not our issue. We want to understand again, why are we learning this? We're learning this because at the end of Ois Aleph, and again, these words are not mentioned here, but we're going to understand them. At the end of Ois Aleph, the Frierdiker Rebbe said, I think 3 times, the idea of Yisur Na'or Haba Min HaChoshev, the advantage of the light that comes from the dark. All right? Okay. And that's the whole secret of this world. So now the Rebbe is explaining that in a rather fascinating way. First, the Rebbe is telling us, the Rebbe brought the Alter Rebbe to teach us about the fact that the etzem of HaKadosh Baruch Hu can be defined in terms of mitziyusum yatzmisum. He exists by virtue of himself. Has no source. Then the Rebbe brings the Mittler Rebbe, and the Mittler Rebbe says that you and I experience something. He didn't say that it's true. He said nirgash. It's felt. Doesn't mean it's true. But it's felt that I exist by virtue of myself. So skip past the brackets. Va'af, and even though, so it's 5 lines down. But even though, va'af, shezeh rak bar gashaseh, and even though this is only in his feelings, this is only our experience, we experience this feeling of existing by virtue of ourselves, even though hopefully intellectually appreciate that that's not true. I mean, if we don't yet, well, we will after we read the next 5 lines. Mikol makom, nevertheless, meaning it's only in my feelings. Not true, but it is what I experience. So the Rebbe says an amazing thing. The very fact, I don't understand, why does this thing keep going back on?
Oh my.
Everybody keeps turning it off and it keeps going back on. I never quite understood this.
Some time ago.
Anyway. Mikol Mokem, Hine Ze Gufa. The very fact, Shianidma al Kol Panim, that it will appear at least, Shemitziyusim Etzmuseh, that we exist by virtue of ourselves. Zeu Mipnei, that is because, Sheshorshe, our true source, is Mia Atzmus, is from Atzmus, Shemitziyusim Etzmuseh, that exists by virtue of itself. Wow, Rebbe just said an amazing thing. He's quoting the Mitzvah. Said an unbelievable thing. What level of godliness could give us the experience of existence by virtue of self? Could godly light give me that experience?
Well, yes, that's what it is.
Godly light could give me that experience? Why not?
That's just the revelation of God.
Okay, and what doesn't godly light have, so to speak? Existence by virtue of itself. How can it give me something that it isn't? Godly light is not about existence by virtue of itself. Godly light is all about, this is what we learned yesterday. Godly light is all about the fact that I exist by virtue of the fact that there's a level higher than me that exists. And if I were to go to that level, what would that level tell me? Oh, there's a level higher than me, and that's the source of my existence, because that's what revelation is all about, and that's what the upper worlds are all about. The worlds of revelation, the worlds that we learned about in the first chapter in Bosi legani, right? Those worlds of revelation are all worlds of descent. That's what Rebbe told us yesterday in the name of the Alter Rebbe. Why are they worlds of descent? Because again, what's revelation all about? Revelation is all about telling. It's not about me, it's about my source. That's what revelation means. So if godliness were revealed in this world, what would we see? Would we see the world as something which is positing its own existence? No. It would be positing God's existence, not its own. That's called bittul. Right? What's yesh all about? Yesh is all about I am. I mean, a bad way, good way. Fine. Okay. So absolute being, yesh amiti, absolute true being, and that's the essence of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. What can we say about it? Why do we define it as absolute being? Because it's not dependent on anything else for its being. It is. It has absolute isness and doesn't depend on anything else to be. That's what it means to be. Because again, if I depend on something else to be, then it's not about me, it's about that thing. Right? Sunlight exists? No, there's a sun, so there's sunlight. Right? The sun can't not give light. Okay, say that. That's just because the Rebbe created it that way. But theoretically, could there be a sun without sunlight? Yeah, why not? If the sun had free choice, could it decide one day I'm not shining? Yeah, why not? Is there still a sun? Yeah. The sunlight isn't what exists. The sun exists. Now, does the sun really exist? No. God exists, and God made a sun. And if God were to decide the sun goes out of existence, poof. No, it would be very dark and very cold, and we'd all just sort of. And how long would it take us to completely cease to exist? I don't know. Not very long. If the sun all of a sudden turned off, I guess we'd be toast. Well, the opposite of toast, pretty quickly. Right? Okay.
Depends how good our heaters are.
What?
So it depends how good our heaters are.
Okay.
I think the heater will be.
Right. Say that. I don't know whether if it's minus 9,000 degrees outside, your heater's going to help. So, there's Fahrenheit, centigrade, and there's another one, right?
There's another one?
Yeah.
No.
Kelvin.
Kelvin.
Kelvin, right? Like absolute zero. So absolute zero is something crazy. It's like colder than Ottawa in the winter. Okay. All right. So you and I have this fascinating experience. I'm smart enough to know that God created me. And not only did he create me, but he gives me existence every moment, and that's what really keeps me going. Okay. I'm smart enough to know that. Just like I'm smart enough to know that light bulb is only shining because there's something called electricity that's going into it, and were I to shut off the electricity, the light bulb would no longer shine. And the light bulb would exist, right? Because the electricity doesn't give it existence, but it gives it the ability to give light, right? And if I just were to shut off the electricity, so then it's not like it would continue shining, Right? Okay, I'm smart enough to know that. So do me. If the Eibishter decided, God forbid, not me, Ruvain, if the Eibishter decided by Ruvain to shut off the source, so then there's no more Ruvain. But it's not that Ruvain stops shining. Ruvain just disappears. Boom, no Ruvain, as if he was never there. Right? If the Eibishter just did Ruvain and not his clothes, okay, so there'll be some clothes on the ground, but Ruvain disappeared. Right? If you wanted Ruvain and his clothes, so then there's nothing. Right? The Eibishter could decide whichever one. He could just leave his hat. It might just be a hat on the ground. Everything else disappeared. Ruvain's pants, his shirt, his new fruit of the looms, everything gone, except a hat. Okay? His glasses, Ruvain's glasses were left. Right? Could that happen? Yeah. Why? Because Ruvain doesn't exist. God exists. Ruvain's just an expression of that existence. But Ruvain doesn't experience that. Ruvain experiences the fact that Ruvain is. Who could give you and I that experience? Godly light can't. Why not? Because godly light doesn't have that experience. Godly light doesn't experience itself as existing by virtue of itself. Godly light is all about realizing that it has a source and a higher level of reality. That's its experience of itself. Right? That state of reality has existence. Okay, what's its experience of its own existence? Of being completely bottled to something else, completely connected to something higher than it. That's what it's all about. Right? The electric current running through the wires. If you were to talk to the electric current, what would he say? Well, I just like electricity, like come from. Well, I exist by virtue of myself. What do you mean? What are you talking about? There's a power plant, and you're connected to the wires that came into the building, right? And he knows that, so to speak. Okay. Human beings are completely unique in that we experience existence by virtue of ourselves. We know it's not true, but that's still what we experience. What level of godly reality could give us that experience? Only essence. Godly light can't give me that experience because it doesn't have that experience. How could it possibly give me something that it isn't? What's the source of that experience? The essence of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Because what's the only thing that truly exists by virtue of itself? The essence of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Me and God himself. The Eibishter, Mamish. That's the only thing that exists by virtue of itself. Every other state of reality, the highest levels of godly light, all these levels we talk about, Atzilus and Or Sevev and Or Mamale and the Ak, and the highest levels of reality, and we spend so much time in Chassidus talking about them, and when you start learning more and more Chassidus, you end up flying into places that you've never heard of and describing levels of godly light that you've never heard of, and it's astounding and amazing and incredible. All those levels of reality, they don't exist by virtue of themselves. They exist because God wants them to. The only thing that exists by virtue of itself that has to be is the essence of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Every other level of existence exists solely because God wants it to. And if God didn't want it to exist, it would cease to. That goes for the highest levels of godly reality down to the most poisonous toad in some pond in Australia. It's all the same. Okay. Then there's this thing called Etzem. Etzem says, I want to be revealed in the lower realms. Oh, what's the vehicle for the revelation of Etzem? You and I. Why? Because we share something in common with Etzem. What do we share in common with Etzem? We just talked about it. I am existence by virtue of myself. I know that's not true, but it is true that that's my experience. Nothing else. Talk to an angel. Tell an angel, you just exist by virtue of yourself. The angel will laugh at you. What are you, out of your mind? What? That's like telling the light bulb that he shines by himself. The light bulb's not an idiot. He knows that if without the electric current, he can't give any light. Right? Okay.
We are the light bulb then.
We're not. No.
Well, we are because we're that's the source. Of
no, because the light bulb knows what's going on. The light bulb's smarter than you. Because the light bulb knows that it's the electrical current that's allowing him to. He's not.
Yeah, but we know
the light bulb has no experience, right? Okay, say that. But that light bulb, what is it? Theoretically, that light bulb, what does he know? Could you do me a favor and connect me to the electricity, please? Because I can't do anything unless you do. He knows that. Okay, so to speak. Right? Obviously, he doesn't know anything. Right? The human being could theoretically assume that he just is, and he could, meaning that experience that you and I have of our absolute being, we could think that's real. We could actually be taken in by that and think, no, I really exist. And what's the source of me? Me. Okay, somehow my parents gave me this thing, but now it's all just me. I'm a completely independent, self-generated being. You and I could imagine that. Well, that's what I experience.
Is that how we each feel it? Yeah.
What?
Is that how we each feel that we...
Well, I don't understand. Do you feel the godly energy pouring into you?
I don't feel the godly energy. I don't think that we...
You don't think that. I'm not talking about thinking. I'm talking about experience. Right? Talking about experience. I agree. You are smart enough to realize that, no, that's not true. But that's still our experience. Right? That is, when we get up in the morning, what are we aware of? Me. Immediately I have to start doing things to express my sensitivity to the fact that that's not true. And if I weren't to do those things, I'd end up like, there's a few billion people in the world who are clueless. Right? There's a few billion people in the world who aren't clueless. Right? But there's a few billion of the people who are completely clueless. Like they really think that that it's just all about them and they exist and there's nothing before and there's nothing after. Not that they're selfish, but that they don't have any sophistication whatsoever relative to the appreciation of what it means that they exist. They've never thought about it. At least half the world, if not more, they might not think about it in a sophisticated way, but they will immediately ascribe their existence to that being called God. There's 2 billion Muslims who will say that. There's 1.5 billion Christians that will say that. Right? So the Buddhists will just say, I'm not. Well, that's stupid also. I mean, you're not. Well, why eating lunch? Right? So you are. Oh, but what does that you are mean? Oh, let's just pretend I'm not. That's easier. Okay, fine. Good. Have a good time. You're going to accomplish a lot that way. Okay. And they didn't accomplish too much. Right. Interesting enough, the people who have accomplished something are the people who deal with the dichotomy of God created me, but I still am. That's the culture that created a lot of stuff.
God created me, but...
What?
What did you
God
say?
created me, but there's still a me that he created. Now, ultimately, I understand I'm completely bottled. Okay, I said about it, but he did give me this experience of self, and I'm supposed to use that for something, obviously.
Yeah.
As opposed to just pretend I'm not and sit in a corner and say Om. Right? So, interesting enough, a lot happens as a result of that appreciation. Now, some of it is absolutely stupid, and some of it is amazing, incredible. Right? Okay, so let's go a little further and see what the Rebbe says. The Rebbe is explaining why this world is what the Eibishter wanted. What is it that allows you and I to experience our own existence? Again, also we have the ability to appreciate the fact that we don't exist by virtue of ourselves, but he gave us an experience of existence by virtue of ourselves, which is called what? Yesh. Yeshut. Sense of self. Very powerful sense of self, which can be unbelievably destructive. Or can be the playground for the most powerful revelation of God. Because what can be revealed down there? If you and I reveal Elokus in this world, what level of Elokus are we revealing in this world? Atzmus. Because what's obviously responsible for the existence of this world? Atzmus. Because Atzmus is the source of existence by virtue of itself. Atzmus is existence by virtue of itself. And therefore can be the source of something else having that experience. Is it a true experience? No. But is the experience truly one we have? Yes. I truly experience that. It's not true, but I truly experience it. I'm not experiencing godly energy flowing into me at all times. Are malachim? Yes. That's what a malach experiences. What's that feel like? I don't know. I'm a human. I don't know what that feels like. Can I appreciate that's what reality is? Yes. Is that my experience? Do I appreciate the fact that an orange is full of vitamin C? Yes. When I eat the orange, am I feeling vitamin C surging into me? No, I'm feeling the taste of the orange. Right? I don't know, I'm aware of the fact, I'm probably eating something good for me. I feel good. I feel good. I'm a good person. What do they call that? The virtue signaling. I'm a good person. I'm a vitamin C eater. I'm okay. But do I feel the vitamin C? No, I don't feel the vitamin C. Is it happening? It's really happening. It definitely is. But that's not what I experience. I experience the taste of the orange. That's what I experience. I don't experience the panemius of it, right? And there's a level beyond the vitamin C, right? And this is why vitamins are an important thing to understand, right? Because you can explain to someone about godliness by explaining to them about vitamins. Because everybody will agree with you that if you're eating an orange, what you're really eating is vitamin C. That's true. Okay. Take them one step further. You're eating an orange. What are you really ingesting? The godly energy that's powering the orange. That's what you're ingesting, and that's what's giving you true energy. The vitamin C isn't giving you the energy. The godliness invested in the orange to give the orange existence is what's giving you energy, because you're now eating godly energy. That's what eating is about. That's why you make a bracha before you eat the orange. And yes, the vitamin C is important. So now you can explain that to anybody now, right? Because everybody knows there's vitamin C in the orange, even though I can't see it, right? So just go one step further. Oh, you believe in vitamin C? Now, you don't have to believe in it. In all fairness, you can figure it out in a laboratory. I get it. Okay, say it. But you believe in vitamin C? That's why you're eating an orange, is because you want some vitamin C? How about the godly energy vitalizing the orange? Do you believe in that? No. Okay, well, let's talk about that. Because the same way that orange is hiding the vitamin C in it, it's also hiding the godliness in it. Exactly the same. What's the real vitamin? There's a physical vitamin and there's a metaphysical vitamin. The physical vitamin, that's vitamin C. It's good for you. The metaphysical vitamin is the godliness in the orange that gives the orange existence. And when you eat the orange, you're literally taking that existence and putting it in you, and it's giving you more energy. That's what happens when you eat food. It's the way God made it. You and I have to eat food. What can't we get that energy directly from? Learning Torah. Why not? I don't know. It'd be nice if I could. I'm feeling tired, open up a maamar, learn about God, and I just feel energized again because I just imbued all this godliness. It doesn't work that way, right? Matter of fact, I'll probably feel more tired afterwards because I expended a lot of energy trying to understand it. Right? What do I need? An orange. Go eat an orange or a cup of coffee or an apple.
Ultimately, you can, because it strengthens your connection with the truth.
But it doesn't. I can talk about it in spiritual terms all I like, and I'm a Buddhist. In real life, I finished learning Torah and I'm tired because I took a lot of energy and I need to eat. That's real. That's exactly what the Rebbe's talking about. God created it that way. Why? So we'll experience etzem, not light. Etzem. This world's not about light. And everybody's a light junkie. Oh, I want to see the light. Fair. You want to see the dark, because what's in the dark? Etzem. What's in the light? You read the scent. Oh. Now, what does that mean? Do we get into darkness? No, we're not into darkness. What do we appreciate, though? What's the true source of the darkness? The whole reason you and I can bring about the most powerful revelation of godliness in this world is because there is no light. There really is, but it's completely concealed. And since it's completely concealed, you and I can therefore appreciate this level called etzem. Because if there were revealed light in this world, we would be blinded by that light. What would we not see? Etzem. Talk to a malach about etzem. He doesn't know what you're talking about. A malach has never experienced what you've experienced. You're the one being in the world that can actually talk in a sophisticated way about existence by virtue of itself because you experience it. Talk to a malach, he doesn't know what you're talking about. It's like a nice shtickle Torah. You go, oh, that's nice. Where's etzem revealed? Tachtainim. The lowest realm. The realm that on one hand could be the lowest, most horrible, depraved place in all of it's imaginable. At the same time, can be the place of the most powerful revelation of God. That's him. Amazing. That's Eilam Hazeh. Because what's revealed in Eilam Hazeh? Etzem. Etzem is revealed. Sort of. Because you and I experience it. Okay, so let's finish. Let's start right after the brackets again. And even though this is only in his feeling, I mean, we only feel that we exist by virtue of ourselves. That's not true. But the Rebbe says, nevertheless, the very fact that you and I experience that, that it would appear at least, that we just are. That's because what is our true source? And in a revealed way. Everything's source is Etzem, but you and I in a revealed way our source is Etzem. Why? Well, because we actually experience something that's similar to what Etzem is. Now, our experience is it's false. We're not really that. Okay, but we experience it. Who gives us that experience? The Etzem. The very fact that we can experience that, mibnei, is why, sheshorshe, for 5 lines up, mi'atzmus, is from Etzem, shemitziyusim atzmus, that truly its existence is by virtue of itself. By Etzem, that's true. By you and I, it's not true, but it is true that we experience that. Not that I want to live that experience. I want to transcend that experience. I ultimately want to realize in the most conscious way possible of the godly energy surging into me at all times. Oh, tzaddikim live that way. Okay, beseder. So then what have they done? They've revealed in the dark. Now this is Yisur and Or. Yisur and Or isn't that the greatest level of light is revealed in the dark. Yisron also means something that has an advantage, something that is greater than light is revealed in the dark. What's greater than light? That's the essence of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. God's not light. Light is an expression of godly energy, but God himself is not light. Like we said, we talked about this yesterday. To a certain degree, you would say God is dark. What does that mean? It's beyond light. Light is infinite godly reality. Okay, God's beyond that. Etzem is beyond that. So what emerges from the dark? Yisra and Or. Simple pshat, the greatest light. What, based on what the Rebbe is explaining to us now? Something beyond light. Something with an advantage over light. Yisra and Or, that which is advantageous over light is what's revealed in the dark. Frierdiker Rebbe says in the maamar Yisra and Or a number of times. The Rebbe is not explaining that. Yisra and Or does not mean the greatest light is revealed in the dark. It means something greater than light is revealed in the dark. And what's that? Atzmus, the essence of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So up there in Etzem, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, Etzem, want to be revealed in the lower realms. I'm going to create a place where the experience of existence by virtue of itself is real. Meaning, people will really experience that. And then when they reveal me down there, what are they revealing? Etzem. If that person can overcome that very powerful experience of I am and realize that really God is, and I'm just an expression of his existence, what level of me, God says, has just been revealed down there? My essence. Not my light, my essence. That's Elam Hazeh. That's why he wants this world with all its craziness. A lot easier to stop in Atzilus, but if you stop in Atzilus, what do you end up with? Yerida, descent, a lower level. Incredible level relative to where you and I are. Wow. Relative to where we started, unbelievable descent. Keep going down, 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 down until the light is completely diminished. Again, in terms of our experience of it. We don't see godly light in this world. Are we intellectually aware, therefore conceptually aware? Therefore, is there an aspect of our experience that does experience the godliness all around us? Yes. Right? Do we experience the hashgacha pratis in everything that we do, everything that happens to us? Hopefully, yes. But it's still happening in the context of a physical experience, and that physical experience is real. And is it possible for someone without your sensitivity to explain it as happenstance? Yes. Is he an idiot? No, he's not an idiot. Is he missing the boat? Yeah, he's missing the boat, but he's not an idiot. It's perfectly reasonable to explain it the way he explained it. Just happened to be. I don't understand. What are you making such a big deal about it? That guy pulled out of the parking space when you pulled up. So you're going to say God made that happen. He's going to think you're off. God made it. The people are pulling out of parking spaces all the time. What are you draining a cup? It happened to be that he pulled out of a parking space. You never saw anybody pull out of a parking space? You've never ever seen that in your life? Just happened to be that you pulled up when he pulled out. Okay, so fine. So you got lucky. That guy's an idiot who just said that? Well, that's an idiot. I mean, that's a perfectly reasonable explanation of that event. You happen to know that for whatever reason, since the 6 days of creation, God planned that guy should pull out of that parking space when you pulled up. That's wild. I'd say his explanation is much more reasonable, right? Your explanation is more true. It's not that more reasonable, right? I mean, because people are pulling out of parking spaces all the time. Okay. This happens to be that Baruch Hashem, this time you happen to be the beneficiary of that. Okay, but if you believe in Hashgacha Pratis, you realize that the Eibishter wanted you to be the beneficiary of that, and so when you pull into the parking space, I hope you say, thank you, Kadosh Baruch Hu, I really do appreciate that. It made it much easier to do what I have to do. If you don't say that, so you missed the boat. Because he just gave you a little present to just make your life a little easier. Right? Would it have been the end of the world if you had to look around for a party? It wouldn't be the end of the world. You don't manage that. Right? And if some guy pulled in right before the guy in front of you who cut you off, you were driving and he cut you off in the traffic circle, he really should have waited for you to go through the traffic circle, but he didn't, and he cut you off and you had to beep and stop suddenly. He takes the parking space. Guess who that is? It's also the Eibishter. Just as much. Right? Obviously, I don't know. Why obviously exactly the same way as when it's good, it doesn't bad. I don't know. It's only obvious when it's bad. That's a pretty depressing way of looking at the world. Right? They're both equally obvious or not, depending on how you look at the world. Right? So what's the Eibishter want in that? Well, okay, so don't get angry. Deal with this besimcha. Start singing a niggin and go look for a parking space. As opposed to cursing that creep out. He deserves to have his windshield broken, because that was really a creepy thing to do. Okay, but say it, what, are you going to go break his windshield? Of course not. Right? He's just a creep. Okay, but say it, he's probably not a very happy person. It's a rachmanis. Okay, wow. Nimsa moving. Now the Rebbe is saying we have to go. It's we have to finish. Nimsa moving. Therefore, it's understood. Shakavana b'habriya. That the intention in the creation, the ishtalshalus, and the downward emanation of all the worlds, is not for the upper worlds. Shinyanim giluyim, that their whole reality is revelation, light. Ki ima kavana, what's the kavana? Hu olam hazeh tachte, is this world, this lowly world. Why? Shenid meloi, it appears she'ena gilui. Because this world, now it's interesting what the Rebbe says. It appears that it's not a world of revelation. It is a world of revelation. It is a world of Or Mamale, just like Bria and Yetzirah. Godly light is clothed in vessels and vitalizes everything and gives it existence and gives it vitality. That's really what's going on in this world. It's exactly the same as Eilam Atzilus, which is why you put the Chacham and the Rasha next to each other at the Seder. First we talk about the Chacham, which is Eilam Atzilus, the four sons, and then we talk about the Rasha, which is Eilam Hazeh. They're next to each other. Why? Because what is Eilam Hazeh? It's really exactly the same as Atzilus. It's just all godly. Okay, that being said, in this world, it doesn't look that way. And so what does it look like? Ki'im atzmi, it seems to exist by virtue of itself. It seems to have essential existence, not revealed existence. Hainu, what does that mean? It seems to exist by virtue of itself. Wow. So therefore what? By virtue of the Aveda in that world, the world we're in, subduing the Yetzer Hara and ultimately transforming the Yetzer Hara. Nisgala Atzmus. What's revealed? Atzmus. Up there in Atzmus, the Rebbe said, I, Atzmus, want to be revealed in the lower realms. I'm going to create a reality where the notion of Atzmus is experienced. Falsely, but experienced. And I want them to reveal me there, because when they reveal me there, what they're revealing is a level beyond light. They're revealing Atzmus. Nizgala Atzmus bishviloi, and for that purpose, Hayabrius Vishtalshlus Evinas, was the creation and the downward emanation of all the worlds. Wow. And that's Yisur Nor. Now, the Rebbe doesn't even use those words, but that's Yisur Nor. Yisur Nor now means what? Something beyond light is revealed in the dark. Because what does the dark allow for? The experience of existence by virtue of itself. What does that allow for? An appreciation of Atzmus. What allows me to have that appreciation? Atzmus. Or can't. Or doesn't know what that is. Okay. Wow. First maamar of the Rebbe. I think the Hasidim sort of knew it's going to be a wild ride. Now, don't just put that away and never look at it again, because if you do, it'll be completely irrelevant. If you look at it and memorize it and understand it so clearly that you can explain it simply to someone else, then it'll be part of your life. If you never look at it again, it'll have nothing to do with anything that you ever do again.
Someone sent me a little video from
Saying the